Okay, so Carol, do you want to explain to the listeners a little bit about your styling journey to date, where you started, where you're located, and I guess your journey from the beginnings to now?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Sarah.
Yay, my pleasure.
It's been great, and I've been listening to your podcast, and it's been really inspiring to hear other stylist stories from all around the world. So I think you've created a really great platform for that. I started in fashion. I studied fashion design for 2 years, and at the end of that I realized that I was really crap at sewing. Like, I just did not have it in me to sew anything or pattern make anything. And how I got through my fashion design college was basically at the very end I would pull it together with the way that I was styling my range and collection, and we'd get really great marks. So I knew that's where my strength was. And when I finished, I kind of just worked in retail for a while, which, looking back, was a really great training ground for kind of helping clients. And, you know, looking back now as a personal stylist, you realize that all of those years you've been training to help people how to buy pieces to suit their body shape and all of those things. And I suppose I was kind of young and I didn't really realize that, but I had a great time, so it was fun. And then I was a little bit bored and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a fashion designer, so a friend of mine was saying, oh, you know, what about working for magazines? They do great photo shoots. And I thought, hey, that sounds quite interesting. So I did a journalism degree after that, because I thought, you know, to be working in a magazine, you really need to learn how to write copies and all that sort of stuff. And plus, I wanted to find out a little bit more about the difference between like television and print and radio journalism. So that was a great kind of avenue to go down. I did land a job. So my first job in magazine was at NW, which was really fun and amazing, and it was a really great start to a publishing career. After about 15 years of working for different magazines, I was doing beauty styling. So I became a beauty editor, fashion editor, and that was kind of like the road, really. And then I landed a job at the Sydney Morning Herald, where I was there for about 6 years, doing not just photo shoots, but it was the first time that I was shooting with celebrities. And the amount of time that we had with them was so intense and short. So someone would fly in for 2 hours and we would shoot them, you know, like 3 different outfits really quickly, and then off they go with their entourage. So I feel like that was a really great learning in terms of how to pull a shoot together really quickly, and just dealing with lots of different people like PR and editors, and the expectation of the celebrity as well.
Just a quick question on that. Carol, just in that little in that moment in your career, did you find that you as a stylist were a valued or perceived as a valuable member of that ensemble when you're putting the shoot together, or did you feel that the stylist's role was not necessarily seen as a very important one? I ask because what I see from the industry is that the stylist pay will often be much lower than hair and makeup, the photographer, the editor, the model. So I was just interested to see, in your experience, where the stylist fit in that kind of hierarchy at the time.
That's such a great question, Sarah. And I think the thing is, because I've always worked and represented the magazine or the newspaper that I've worked for, I was not just a stylist, but a creative director as well. So I didn't just bring the clothes to the shoot. I was kind of mapping out where the shoot was going, what's the concept, and speaking to photographers about the concept that we're going. We would have a pre-production meeting. If it was a big photo shoot, we'll go location scouting. So coming from that angle, I feel like you have a lot more say on the actual photo shoot, which is really important, because sometimes if you are a freelancer and you get put on a job, and yes, you have all of those things that you do, like pre-production, where you're going to shoot and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like you do bring, it's a different level of styling. You just don't have as much control, because I work for the actual magazines and title. At the end of the day, I had the right to say, hey, this is the direction that we're going. This is what our readers want to see. So it's a different kind of ball game. Some shoots that you show up as a freelance stylist, you really are just bringing the clothes and styling the models, and that's sort of it. So it really depends on the job and how much power you have, really, as a stylist.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so back onto the career journey. You were.
I was rambling.
No. I just wanted to ask that point because I know that there's when you have an editorial shoot, you do have sort of quite a few players, and it's interesting to see whether every creative member of that team is paid equally, if they're respected equally, if they have equal share of voice in the creative direction. When you're coming from a fashion editorial perspective and you are the fashion director or the creative director and the shoot is for a publication, that's your show, which makes sense. But then, as you said, there's other stylists for and say campaign photography that come on, and it seems as though they're often seen as almost just like a PA and not so much an artistic presence on the shoot. So it was just interesting. So back to your editorial experience and kind of getting to, I guess, the tail end of freelancing editorial, or were we still in the magazines at this stage? I've mucked up our journey.
Yeah, I mean, no, I did a little bit of freelancing, but I'm definitely more of a fashion editor. So I really, because I feel like at the core of every shoot, you want to be able to, get the right audience. You want the audience to like what you do. So for me, like, the thinking behind every shoot is always about the demographic. Who am I talking to? Are they going to like this? Like, how much money are they? I mean, it's definitely the core client. So I'm much better when there is actually a really solid background and a product behind what I need to do. So, but back to the editorial, but I feel like a lot has changed now with social media and the way that people are shooting. So there are a lot of creative directors, so to speak, out there where they are.
We're doing air quotes for everyone.
So it's. I mean, look, I feel like I'm showing my age, but I'm like, in my 40s now. So I've been doing this for 20 years, and it was definitely a very different ball game. Like, when I was working in magazines, there was different hierarchies in terms of like which photographers could you get to work for your magazine, because they only work for certain magazines. So if you want a high-end photographer, especially when I was working in bride-to-be magazine, like, bridal magazines were not valued. They were not high up in the ladder in terms of editorial
and fashion
photo shoots, and fashion is not really fashion. And I was at bride-to-be at a time where they really wanted to change that. So I had to go out and wine and dine photographers and hair and makeup artists, because I wanted them to come on board and
align with your publication.
Absolutely. And they're like, oh, look, I'm happy to shoot for you, but don't put my name on the credits, and things like that. So there was a lot of that sort of stuff, and I wanted to produce a really great publication with really original bridal shoots, whereas in Australia at the time, the bridal magazine just was not like that. The shoots were very stagnant. It was very advertorial instead of editorial. So a lot of photographers kind of want to stay clear away from bridal shoots. But in Europe, where like they've got beautiful bridal editorial shoots there's a really beautiful, really thick Italian bridal magazine. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but they just have the most inspirational, beautiful photo shoots. And that's where I wanted to take the magazine. So I really had to kind of go out and like grab those photographers and say, I really love to work with you. And and I think that's the thing with most things, like, you've just got to work with what you've got. So at the time, what was great about Bride to Be was I had this fantastic editor from the UK, and she was like, Carol, just go out there, what you can do is, we were going to all these amazing honeymoon destinations for photo shoots. So she's like, use that, you negotiate with the photographers. We're taking them on a trip, and we'll be at amazing locations. And so little by little, we got on board a few really fantastic photographers that was working for high-end magazines to kind of really turn that editorial to the editorial look of that magazine.
For stylists that are just starting out, I guess, to clarify for them, you have images that are almost product shots or stock photography. It's just a model posing with the garment. But then what you brought to Bride to Be, and in fact, I guess, revolutionized the way bridal magazines presented themselves, was by bringing in a narrative, a story to the photo shoot, and being able to present the garments and the dresses and the looks in a story format, as opposed to just being a catalogue of images. Is that right?
Absolutely. And editorial is often shot in a studio, so you can click over lots of different dresses very quickly, without changing the lights or anything like that. And we actually, when I was there, we had the first cover of Bride to Be that was not shot in the studio. It was outdoors. It was by the ocean. So that was kind of like the beginning of all of that. But I know that at the time, the advertising girls were having such a hard time trying to convince advertisers to let go of that concept of, if you advertise, you get 2 dresses shot, front on, full length, into let the girls do what they know how to do. And this is how we're going to bring more readers and have a wider audience for the magazine. So you really, as a magazine, working together with the advertising team as well to achieve that. That probably
ignited the constant battle between the fashion editorial team of a magazine, the advertising account managers, and the clients, because coming from client side, where I'm like, listen, I'm paying for a full page ad. I don't just want the corner of the bra of our brand to be seen. I appreciate it doesn't fit in with your narrative, and it becomes it's really, really hard for everyone to kind of create this artistic presentation that the reader will love, the client's happy with, the ad manager's happy with, stylist is happy with. Nightmare. But I guess you kind of pulled together your own dream team eventually of photographers and hair and makeup artists, which is something that you've kind of taken with you as you evolve.
That absolutely. And a lot of those people are still my friends now. So we had a couple of really tight teams. Some of them are still like my best friends. And we had a ball. We actually had a lot of fun doing that magazine, going away on trips and, working things out, like how you're going to pack like 20 wedding dresses into 5 suitcases and things like that.
Yes.
So we had a great time. And at that time, magazines,
that was the golden age of magazines. Really, where people had budgets, and we did lunches. That was a really, if you were working with ACP or
yes. So Bride to Be was bought out by Time Inc. So we were in the same group as Who magazine and Instyle magazine. So that was great. We had this thing where we did a couple of shoots. I did a few shoots for Instyle magazine as well, and because we were in the same building, so you're able to kind of go and shadow another fashion editor, which was a really great learning experience. But that's when you're like, oh gee, people really don't want to work for Bridal magazine. It was really tricky. Like Bridal magazine was definitely at the bottom rung of all the magazines.
I guess it just had a different function, didn't it? It was sort of very much specific to people that are looking to plan their wedding. They just want to see a catalogue of all of the dresses, veils, shoes, accessories they need. Then they're not sort of reading it. Well, there'd be a small percentage of the readership that are enjoying the magic of weddings in general, but I guess there's a different reason why people buy those magazines. And as the nature of magazines and the industry itself started to shift,
yes,
you became a freelance stylist as opposed to working under a title. Is that right?
No, so straight after Brighton magazine, I went to Sydney Morning Herald. So they had 2 in-house stylists at Fairfax. And basically we worked across all of the titles. So with Fairfax, Good Living, Domain, Spectrum, all of those Icon, they all have a different editor. So the editor would book in a shoot with us when they need something done. So it was such a fantastic learning platform for me personally, because not only was I doing fashion, because I was working with Kelly Hush was there at Fairfax at the time, and she headed up this different section called Essentials, and that was purely fashion, and that went on for a couple of years, I think. And that was really great. So not only was I doing fashion, I also learned how to shoot food, as well as working, like I was mentioning before, with different celebrities. And that's all like slightly different take on how you work as a stylist between all of those shoots. So it was such a great learning ground for me, and I had such a great time, because I feel like with Fairfax, it's like a really grown-up place to work.
Yes, it's a more serious, conservative place to work, I think.
Yeah, and people are like, they're serious journalists and they're editors, and it's like there's a level of trust there that you can do the job. We've hired you, and you can do this job. There was, so I had to really like go to myself, okay, you can do this. You've never done the food shoot before, but you can do it.
It's interesting you say that, Carol. I had a question from some RMIT Diploma of Fashion Styling students yesterday, which was, how do you keep your confidence level up as a stylist? And it's something I had actually not thought before. When you are styling a shoot, how do you kind of keep yourself mentally in check to go, you can do this, this is good, trust in your aesthetic and your skills? So is it just that little mental monologue that you tell yourself that everything's going to be okay?
Yes, I mean, I remember every night before the shoot, I would have packed the car, I've got everything, I've got my checklist, got the steamer in there, check. And it's always like, I'm really like a bit nervous. I have a late night because I'm worried, stressed about what, have I forgotten anything, that sort of thing. And then I always get up really early the next morning, and I get like butterflies. And it didn't matter how long I had been styling for, I was still feeling like that. And I said to my husband, I said, I don't know why I'm still feeling like this. I'm so nervous about the shoot. And he's like, it's because you care. If you stop feeling nervous anymore, you don't care anymore. So usually when I get there, I'm a bit like, okay, is everybody okay? Has everyone arrived? And then once we've done the first shot, I'm like, okay, we got this. This is good. So it is a bit of a dialogue in your head. And I think the more prepared you are for the shoot, the more relaxed you can be on the shoot. Because sometimes when you're packing, you just never know if you're like, oh, should I take that extra, 3 hats or whatever? Just take it, because you never know if you're going to need that. That one hat's going to make the shot. So if in doubt, take it.
Take the hat. So from Sydney Morning Herald, you then went where? What did you do?
So when I worked at Sydney Morning Herald, it was a pretty full-on job, and I was probably there for about 6 years. I had my 2 babies there, blessed, the maternity leave. And after that, after my second child, my family and I actually moved to Shanghai for 2 years. And my grandmother was really ill at the time, and we just thought we'd take a break and move to Shanghai. And then we came back 2 years after that. So after my second baby, I just felt like, the time has come for me to leave. And I actually felt at the time that it's like fashion is not a young person's game, but being a fashion editor, I I feel like my time was up. I really feel like, I wasn't that inspired anymore to do the actual really trending fashion shoots. I still love doing the food shoot, but yeah, I suppose my focus was elsewhere. I had the 2 babies and I wanted to give it a bit of a break. So after that, I had probably a year and a half of not working at all and just being a stay-at-home mum. And to be honest, at the end of that, it kind of drove me crazy, because I had a job that was, semi-high profile, stylist at Sydney Morning Herald. We were always at the shows and it was really fun. And suddenly I feel like I was at home just being a stay-at-home mum, changing nappies and like feeding,
watching
and
ABC
making baby
Kids.
food. That's right. But the funny thing, if you're talking about in terms of fashion, is that I had loads of going out clothes. I had so many going out clothes, it wasn't even funny. Like, launch here, launch there, drinks here. And I had nothing to wear when I was at home with the kids. I had to just kind of rethink that whole, scenario about staying at home.
Yes, I hear you. This is my casual option. Not appropriate.
I like that pink little zebra number. That's
Thank
cute.
you. Little country road number I just picked up. I'm obsessed with pink, and I don't fill the gaps in my wardrobe with basics, so I just have like bright colours that kind of don't go with anything. So I guess part of the reason why I love working with stylists is I can just kind of subtly get lots of little tips, but then chastise you all for not charging me for it. Anyway.
You're funny. So I suppose after the Sydney Morning Herald, I was kind of a little bit lost. I was like, I've had this great career being a stylist, and I know that visually I can make things happen, but I just wasn't really sure which direction to go in. And it kind of happened really randomly. Like, a friend of mine was going back to work full time, and she said, look, I've been at home for a year and a half, and can you just come over and help me put some outfits together, because I'm going back to work full time. I'm not going to have time to scratch myself. And, I just actually don't know what I should be wearing anymore. So I was like, all right, cool. You get a bottle of wine. I'll come over. And it kind of sort of started there. We just went through her wardrobe, had a few glasses of wine, had a few laughs, and we started chucking things out. And I said, you know what you really need? You probably just need like this, and this, and this, and you can wear this with that. And she's like, well, why don't we just go out and do half a day of shopping or something? I went, sounds great, let's do that. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was kind of how I started the process, which a lot of people do it, like the edit, the shopping, and then the styling. So with her, the styling, she just didn't know how to put pieces back together with each other. And also going from a fun, no children woman in her late 20s to, someone who's had children, her body shape has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And going back to work full time in a little bit more senior role was, all of those answers kind of made up what her style should be. So from that one friend, she went back to work and they were like, oh, God, you look so great. She goes, oh, I had my friend Carol came over and we did this and we did that. And from there, it just went from there. So another friend came from her office, and then I think in about 4 months' time, it was people that had no connection to my friends anymore. So the word of mouth had gone from a friend to a friend. Another friend who I sort of know gone somewhere else, and then there were people like, oh, hi, I've never met you before, but I know such and such, and can you do what you did for her for me?
Yeah.
And then I thought, after about a year, I thought, hey, there's something in this. I can do this, and it's fun. So that's how the personal styling thing started.
And I know your core clients are typically CEOs and managing directors and entrepreneurs. So women in a senior capacity. 1 second. Excuse me. that women in a senior capacity that are at a different age, and they're sometimes in a position where you've got a lot of other younger women, potentially younger single women working for them, and all of a sudden the way that they're presented in their clothing and their style and their look is really, really important. And we're not, before kids, we all kind of shop a lot and know what we like, and you can really pop anything on. But then as we get older, you do need a little more guidance and advice. And it's so important for those women in a professional setting to feel as powerful as they should, because they've worked hard, they've got incredible expertise, and they just want that sort of external look to match the inside. So you seem to attract that type of client.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, having my business now for a couple of years, I do find that core client, I do attract that type of women because I think my style is quite simple. It's a little bit sophisticated. And, I really believe that fashion doesn't mean uncomfortable. Like I'm not really into trends that's uncomfortable. So I always say to my client, it's got to be comfortable so you can be the best and look the best without feeling like, oh, that's really, digging into my back, or the skirt's a little bit too tight around the waist.
Or it's cold. A lot of fabrics are just cold. I hate feeling cold,
You do live in Melbourne, love.
Yeah, true. Everything's cold except the fur that I've got, my little ostrich fur, which fake ostrich. I don't know what it is. It's polyester. But so, and comfort for you, I know you have a lot of clients because of their seniority, they're traveling a lot. And so you're kind of having to map out every single look for every single meeting and function and presentation when they're traveling, which is also important to have that comfort component as well as that powerful sort of, presenting your most professional self.
That's right. And I feel like a lot of my core clients are not in their 30s. They're probably more in their 40s and 50s. And I think by that age, you are tired of wearing heels. As well as that, they want to go from A to B really quickly. They want to look good, and they're basically running around with family, their job, all of those things. And I just feel like they want to look like they're in control but comfortable and polished. That's really the main goal of the style guide. Another thing about, I feel like, working with this type of women, like business leaders and CEOs, is that they have no time. They've got no time for BS. They've got, they just want someone to come in to help them. Yeah. And I give them a style guide so they can always refer back to what outfits they want to wear. And, that's it. They don't want to see me. I don't want to see them. Like, we're good for another season. This is probably not a great business.
No, but interestingly,
business.
your core clients will shop around 3 times with you, and then to kind of keep refreshing their wardrobes, and they've got their style guides. But the way that you've been scaling your business, which is really interesting and something I wanted to ask you more about, is this upsell component that you've built in. The CEOs and entrepreneurs and business women who have invested time with you to do the wardrobe edit, the shop and the style, you've then launched branded photography. Talk me through that. That's very clever.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I suppose it was just a natural progression, really. So I've got my clients who, they've been with me for I always say, just stay with me for 2 years. You've done 2 seasons, 1 summer, 1 winter. The next year you do another summer, another winter, and you should be okay to kind of go on your own, because things don't change that much. You add a few more trend-driven pieces in there, and that's fine. And once they're looking good, and, I see them on social media or wherever, they're like, oh, feeling great. A lot of these clients have their own businesses, and they want to have this, now that they've got this new image, new look, like, how do you capture it and put on, the LinkedIn photos and the Instagram photos, and as well as their own website. So with my background in photo shoots, I've still got all my amazing contacts from when I worked, and did all the editorial shoots. So from Fairfax, as well as from freelancing days. So I just thought, you know what, that's something that I could offer clients. And it's not going to be the boring corporate profile shot. It's actually, again, it's about presenting the authentic self in this profile shoot. So we never go to a studio. So it's really plain boring, but instead using really beautiful natural light, and projecting their new image.
Yeah,
basically.
their new brand. You've rebranded them.
Yeah,
it's really
right.
clever.
Thank you.
I know you like to kind of educate your clients and then kind of set them free after a few seasons. But thinking from a business perspective, how do I retain those clients in some way that is relevant to them and provides further value to them, but also fits in with where you would like to take the business? Being able to offer this kind of upsell option of now capturing their new brand with new headshots, social media shots, they can use on their website, their email signature, a press release or a bio. A lot of these women are doing a lot of public speaking as well, or they're authors. So it's a really clever way of providing something extra to continue the journey with them, whilst not trying to push the same experience that may not be relevant for them.
Yes, that's right. And I feel like, people are not stupid, especially with the clients that I'm working with. They are at the top of their game. They know what they want, and it's a service that you provide, and you just want to be, it's basically the way that I work is the same as the way that they work. It's just, let's get in, get the job done.
Yep.
You've got this file that you can follow through, and let's move on. And it's really about, I feel like I can't be selling the same stuff to the same clients. Once they've got the knowledge and they know how to dress themselves, like that's really the best that you can ask for as a stylist, that they, as a human being, they know how to dress their shape and they're looking great and confident within themselves to do it. You don't want someone to be asking you all the time, like, oh, is this right? Is this not right? For years, it's really not the way that I want to be as a personal stylist. I just feel like I wanted to help them. And I suppose that's my philosophy, but sometimes I feel like it's probably not
counterproductive.
Yeah, that's right. Not going to be making millions doing that.
No, but do you know what? I think that it's your background in the editorial space where time is money and you've got an objective and you want to achieve that objective, as opposed to someone that comes from a service industry where they're used to providing that service on a regular basis in a relationship way, continually. Because there will be clients that actually say, do you know what, I just love going shopping with a stylist. That's something fun. Or they just love having someone present new looks and potential style guides and ideas for them. And then there'll be the clients that say, this is a current barrier to my success. I just need you to solve the problem by building a wardrobe for me, taking some new photos, and then I'm on my way. So you'll have a mixture of clients, and you're in a fortunate position where you do have a full roster of clients, which every stylist dreams of. So I know the kind of going back to the shoots is where your head's at.
That's right. I really love, making people feel good, and they're always so amazed when you take the first shot, and they're like, oh my God, that's me, So I do love that high that you get from a photo shoot day, and I know a lot of stylists love that as well. And to be able to make them feel good in their own clothes, the clothes that we've styled, and it's their new look, it's just really great. And I still get to work with my friends, like photographers and hair and makeup artists, so it's always a massive laughing attack kind of full on day, which is always fun. On that note about, I think you were saying about clients wanting to move on too. I have, my whole philosophy about shopping, and as I get older as well, it's just really about, you should be buying less, not more. With this whole COVID thing, people are like, I don't have anything to wear at home. And I'm like, really? You should actually have a wardrobe where you're comfortable wearing all the time. And if you're doing something a little bit more like you're talking on Zoom, or you have a few jackets that you wear. So I just don't want people to go out there and buying and shopping up with the wrong stuff. It's just not my philosophy at all. And I have clients that, like I said, you know what, you actually don't need any more clothes. You can wear this with this and wear that with that. And they're like, no, I just want to go shopping with you. Let's go shopping. And I'm like, if you want to hang out, that's a different story.
Yeah, this is why there's this huge gap for stylists, and we're just kind of waiting for it to hit critical mass, I guess. Every single woman has a jam-packed wardrobe. No one has nothing to wear. The point is we don't know how to put the pieces together, and the only person that does is a stylist. So we keep, as clients, just shopping and kind of adding to the wardrobe, thinking this will solve everything. This will solve everything. A pink and black striped dress, what was that going to solve? Nothing. That hasn't tied in a single thing. It made me bloody happy, which was fantastic. But it also, a flaming yellow maxi skirt. I don't know why I just bought that from Beckham Bridge. It's lovely, but I've never worn it. What would I put it with? So having this opportunity for a stylist, someone who is skilled in the art of curating all of those things, tying them in together and making you make more sort of sustainable, conscious shopping choices, is the way forward. And it's just our job to get everyone on board.
That's right. I feel like, I always say the last session, because I work, the 3 different sessions to get the full impact. The last session, the style session, is always the most important. I just feel like you can buy all you want, but if you don't know how to put it together, it's a fail.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's just really like the zhuzh, I'm all about, the little French tuck, the roll of the sleeve, like where you sit in your collar. Have you got a necklace on, just to balance out the proportions and silhouettes? So I feel like that last session, when I get my hands on them and putting things on and tucking this and doing this, is really the funnest and the best part.
The styling part of styling.
That's right. It is. So it's less about shopping and more about the styling. I think the emphasis has got to be. Yeah.
It's a really good point to end on. Carol, that was sensational.
Oh, I feel like I ramble on. I'm just like blah, 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 blah.
No, I'm like in my head going, this is a really, really good episode. I'm really excited. I love the fact that you've effectively kind of come full circle from editorial shoots to personal styling, and kind of now turning personal stylists, giving them the opportunity to be in an editorial shoot of sorts.
Yes.
I loved the inside, behind the scenes anecdotes you've shared about being on a shoot, and the hierarchy and the aesthetic of magazines. I just think that's really, really interesting information. And I'm thank you so much for being open and trusting enough to share this stuff. Because it is your own business, but it's the feedback I get from every stylist is, oh my gosh, that was so great to hear other people going through the same things, understanding that everyone has to start somewhere, and there's always going to be challenges. It's really, really great. So I know that I'm really excited to just get this edited and get it out.
Oh, I feel like, I've listened to your podcast, and there's always a section where you ask, like, what's the advice for young people?
Yes. Oh, my God. Wait, I'll introduce that now. Okay. So final segment, the future of styling. Where is the future of styling headed, and what advice would you have for aspiring stylists who are just starting their careers?
It's such a good question. I feel like, knowing what I know now, I feel like if you're a young stylist starting out, just go with your passion. If you really enjoy working in retail, do it, because every single step that you take, you're learning something, and you don't know how it's going to fit together at the end, but it will somehow. So if you want to work in retail, gain as much experience as you can. If you wanted to, tail a editorial stylist, do that. If it doesn't work out, like, try something else. But every single thing that you end up doing, it kind of brings you together as a whole person. So you don't have to set your mind into, I must be this, or I must be that person, or I want, like that. You've just got to be agile in this environment at the moment where things are changing rapidly with social media as well. So just follow your passion and know that everything that you are learning will, come good someday together.
And
does that make sense?
It definitely does. It definitely does. Comically, the last two words of that sentence were completely distorted. So I think what you're trying to say is all of the experience that you gain will come together and benefit your business in the future.
That's right.
My another question for you: when you were doing editorial shoots, and then from a personal styling perspective, it would have been much easier for you to borrow stock either for the shoot or potentially if you were to bring some clothes to a client, because you already have an established reputation as an industry expert. I know a lot of styling students kind of come up against this barrier where stores don't want to work with them because they're just starting out, so they can't get access to the stock, which limits their potential to create content. What's your advice in that kind of situation?
It is tough. I mean, I feel like PR, you've got to know who these people are. The people, you've got to cultivate the relationship. And it's true, like, I've been lucky because I've worked in media for so long that a lot of the PR agents are still the same. So you have that connection from way back, and I could call up someone and they're not going to question me. I think if you're a young person starting out, really the best way of gaining experience in editorial styling is to tail a stylist, because you're basically using their name to get stock. After that, when you do go into PR agencies and what have you, you really, it's a great opportunity to introduce yourself, like get them to get to know you. And that's all you can do. It's like you're building relationships, and that's how you can kind of get stock from a lot of the stores.
That's a really clever idea. So kind of shadowing another stylist, assisting for free, and then when you are naturally liaising with brands or agencies on their behalf, you're already getting that connection or that rapport and acknowledgement with those people. PR agencies that's one avenue for brands that have a large enough budget to be able to pay a monthly PR fee. But what advice would you give for stylists who think, well, maybe I will target up and coming and emerging brands who are just starting, who are looking for exposure?
Sure.
Would you recommend maybe just calling them the marketing manager or going into the store? Where are they most likely to get some traction?
Look, you know what? I think nowadays with social media, you can basically, if you've got something to show them, you must show them what you can do with their stock. Like, no one wants to hire out and give out products if they don't know what you're going to be doing with it. And, so go in there. If you ask, call them up, make an appointment with the owner or a buyer or a marketing person, and just say, hey, look, I'm a stylist. I have this shoot in mind. This person is going to be shooting it. Tag him or her with their portfolio. Go in there with a concept and explain to them what you want to do. And that is a great way to meet the client, so to speak, get to know them and get stock.
Great idea.
Yeah, I feel like you've got to show people what you can do, because there's a lot of people who want to be stylists out there. And I bet you they get lots of calls all the time about pulling stock. Yeah. And a lot of the stores, with the retail environment at the moment, they're like, oh, what if it gets damaged? That sort of thing. Yeah. Another tip is, I also, if it's someone that I've never worked with before and I want to pull stocks directly from the store, I normally go in there, show them the concept, and I say, hey, look, I'll put my credit card details down, and if I don't return it, you can charge me. And that basically guarantees that if things go missing and there's a level of trust there that you're happy to put forward your credit card details, if something happens, they're not, they're not left with a damaged product.
Absolutely. That is such great tactical advice, Carol. I'm really excited about that, because those are sort of 3 things that stylists can do today. And that's one of the biggest challenges, the biggest barriers to building their business is that what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, do I find someone famous to shoot and then hope that I can leverage that to get the stock? So I thank you so much for sharing that advice. That's incredible.
Oh, you're welcome.